this game is completely vibe coded, but I guess I'll just show you guys real quickly what it is. It's changed my perspective on vibe coding games because before I thought, oh, game development should be so easy right now. There's so many tools with all this generative AI stuff, but there are still some serious barriers, which I'll get into. But let's start off the game that I've created. So it starts with a cat, because that is the theme for JS13K, is you've got a black cat. So I've designed the game with this in mind. And we're just sitting here, we're waiting for the rival cat to come chase us. And probably because I'm doing this video, there's going to be some problem, which means that it's not quite starting. Let's try it again. Basically, this is a take on a classic game of chasey. Yeah, so here we go. He gradually gets fast. I built a tunnel system so that I can escape. Jukes. I juked him, he would never catch me. So yeah, pretty cool game. But look, as simple as this is, this was actually crazy hard to build and took me more than a day with vibe code. Why? Well, it comes down to this. Coding is still quite difficult, as it were. There's some things which I encountered in building out these features that sort of left me a bit shook. I mean, the principal thing is that game images are the way that we render these levels. So it's pretty cool that we've got this background level here where we can sort of run around. Well, this is all just done on the back of a PNG. None of this is actually properly rendered. It's just a PNG. So for all of these RPGs that you see, at least in when you're coding in HTML, that's how these ones work, which I think is pretty cool. The other thing that I learned is that when it comes to making these animations, which seem basic as like this tunneling animation, these animations are so freaking hard to build because they work on sprite sheets. And I'll show you what those look like. So basically, there's two things. Firstly, this is the level, which if we look at it, I generated this using a generative AI thing, and it works really well. I used it actually using the new Gemini 2.5 model, and the results were pretty impressive. Like, it was able to spit this out, and then I up-resed it by upscaling the image quality, which basically takes like a really like lackluster image and then makes it better. But these, man, like, this is only a few images, but if I had to do this, even with generative AI, it's so tough to get these images right. And the way that I ended up having to do it was to actually go and look at some reference images and see if those could help me. And I'll show you what those ones look like. So where's my reference images? Yeah, so I had to go and look at like images like this to see if they can help me actually do the walking animation. It wasn't just an out of the box experience, but one thing I will say is it's pretty impressive the stuff that you can do. So if I put in my sprite sheet here, and it's able to sort of generate certain sprite sheets out here. And yeah, Gemini's, if you guys haven't heard or been living under a rock, is like an AI editor for images. So it basically kills Adobe. You can like do things like give me an animation spreadsheet for this cat breathing fire, and it should run through and actually edit it up so that it can actually breathe fire and you get that animation sheet. The animations that it gives are never going to be good, but I think that it's pretty impressive that it's able to do that. Yeah, see here, start with, you could probably make a pretty decent sitting animation. Don't know why the fire's coming out the back. This is a cat on fire. It's just covering all the bases. But yeah, the point is that it's pretty sick what it can do out of the box. The other thing that I learned was that you actually can code a game in JavaScript, and I'll show you that. So the game engine that I used was a little game engine called Little JS Engine, and it's pretty powerful, all things considered. Like, you're able to spin up, like, this whole game is written in under 500 lines of code, which is impressive because normally it would be very intense. There's a few things I wish that I could have done better. So I did use Claude Code in order to go through and code this up, and I started with the base template for Little JS, but it wasn't much help at all. By the way, I'll upload all of this code so that you guys can see exactly how I built this. But the thing that I thought was quite difficult for me was not really understanding how the actual game functions work, which, as I've gone through, I kind of get it. Like, they've got these base functions which are used for different points in the game. Like, you've got your game init, which actually resets and sets up the game. You've got your game update, which, as I understand it, is a way of like doing your game state management and like happens when different states are occurring. You've got post updates, which are like what happens when the game state changes. Do you need to change other things? And then you've also got like the actual rendering of the game, which is like how does that look in terms of tiles. And the way that we've done it is actually like creating like a tile system here, which I think is a spin out. Also do post updates game states. So like one of the things that I found quite difficult was like not being able to see like hitboxes on the tunnels. Like you noticed before when I was running around as the cat, like jumping into the tunnels, it's difficult to like know how big the tunnels are. So or even where the tunnels were. So I had to like set up a mapping system in order to know at what point on the grid the different assets were. And then also learning the build steps and build process is quite full on. Little.js is quite a small engine because the competition that I've been trying to build all this for was basically it has a requirement where you actually have to use a smaller framework and bundle your game to the size that it is going to be basically at 13 kb. So I'll just show you the actual competition JSK 13 or JS13K. Here we go. So yeah, obviously it's the Black Cat competition and it's on right now. And already there's a ton of submissions which have been done. But the rules of the game that everything has to be in a zip file underneath. The archive needs to contain an index.html and yeah, get involved. But I think that this has been like a good learning experience for understanding how things have been, how to even do this. Now, when it comes to actually some of the problems that I've encountered, I would say that the biggest problem so far has been looking at asset generation. Getting the cat sprite sheet right was very difficult. And whilst Google can spit out okay sprite sheets, you'll often find yourself reaching for either online sprite sheets and then editing them yourself. And yeah, I think you have to do that because you have to get pixel perfection in these games. When I was looking at how to actually do it, where I had to make sure that I had to have a tile which is 256 by 256, because if and this is the other thing, Google's images are going to be off center. So you have to make sure that all of the images and the animations that you're creating map directly to the right tile size. So that was really quite a challenge. The other thing that wasn't easy was not necessarily building the game like you might expect, because obviously vibe coding lets you do that. But I would say that making mechanic for a game is quite hard because Chasey itself is one of the oldest mechanics for a game, but it is quite hard if you're trying to be original when it comes to building a game. So everyone can build a Pokemon type game. I could have built that here. I didn't opt to do that because I wanted to build in this RPG kind of style. And I also like to be creative when building, and that gets me in trouble because I have to think outside the box. And I think that using your imagination when building your first game is probably not a good idea. I think it's always better to build on established mechanics because, yeah, coming up with a chasey build, I was able to vibe it out very, very easy in Claude. But I think that if I was doing it how I wanted to do it, because I had this idea, this elaborate idea for a game where it would be multiplayer and there would be cats, but there would also be like hunters, and then the cats would be chasing the mice, and then the hunters would try and chase the cats, and then the mice or the hunters get scared by the cats. I don't know. Like coming up with all of those additional concepts makes the game that much more complex, and you're not going to vibe it out in a day. So that's where I see a lot of these videos coming out and being like, I vibe coded a game and it took me 6 hours and now I'm making 30K a day. Like it's not realistic because you actually have to understand what you're doing, especially if you're going to support that game after the first day. And that was another thing. As I was vibe coding, I started to see some patterns in the actual code that was being produced, which I know are bad patterns because I may not know about game development, but I know about coding, and I know that when you're coding, it's much better to be declarative on your objects than it is to put in a complex logic to switch up or to add if statements to when various conditions are met. It's much better. And I think that when I was adding in the hitboxes for those portals, Claude tried to add in if statements in order to increase the tunnel's width, which is not right, because when you do that with if statements, it's just not going to be maintainable, because yeah, the moment you need to update those hitboxes, it's hard. So I can very easily see that for even game development, you really have to watch your building in order to make changes, not a complete mess. I think that one of the things that I would also say is being unaware of the underlying primitives that are being used by Little.js or whatever engine that you use is basically shooting yourself in the foot. And if I could have done something better, I would have read the documentation. I'm still going to be working on this game because I really like it, and I'm going to expand out these mechanics. I think that it's a lot of fun, and I think that making animations is easier today, but it's the end problem is still going to be you've still got to work. The AI can't just do everything for you. If you believe the hype, then you're going to fall into a pit of depression where you're like, it's so hard. If I can't do it, why can't I do it? So yeah, you just need to be aware of that. Yeah, and another thing I'll just say is on the engine side of things, I was really impressed with the way that you can build in Little.js. Like it's very, very quick to build games. And I think that whilst it doesn't really have a good starter guide, I had to play around with it to get it starting properly, and I actually had to configure my own dev environment. I think that there's a lot which is offered. Like it does these post-processing effects on pixel games where it will like add this like lag, which is really cool. So you've got, and if you don't know what post processing is, it's basically where after you've rendered your game, you add effects over the top of the rendering in order to make it look cool. And yeah, it's just really easy to actually set up scores and things like this. Like it'd be easy to set up something like a mini clip game in Little.js. I don't know if you guys remember mini clip or if it's even still around, but yeah, you've got everything from audio to input, physics. I would be very comfortable with bundling this up into a Tori app and distributing it on the App Store even. Tori is an easy way of actually building cross-platform apps. If I hope this helps, and guys, if you are interested in me doing an actual full tutorial on how to start and finish a game using vibe code, let's do that. Just let me know in the comments below. If you're tired of game development and want to check out how to build apps easily, check out Fast Pocket. It'll get you sorted. All right, I'll see you in the next one. Bye.